Hi, I'm Billy Ray Cyrus.
Hi, I'm Alex Maxwell, and I see little old people.
And I'm Nathan Little, and today we're talking about the David Lynch film Mulholland Drive. We all watched it last night. We all had some mixed reactions to it, I believe.
Yes.
So, I of the three of us, I'm the only one, I believe, that has seen anything David Lynch.
Yeah, I feel I should
haven't.
I should clear up what this is though. So we're trying out a thing that we're calling for the minute Film Club, subject to change.
First rule of Film Club: don't talk about.
No, please.
So
do.
yeah, we'll move straight on.
Please do. Yeah.
So essentially, what we're doing is one of us this week, it was Nathan, is going to suggest a film that either he has seen or like none of us have seen, and we're going to all watch it in the same week, preferably when lockdown lifts together, but as of right now, separately. And then the next day or that week, we will then talk about our thoughts on it. And Nathan, as he said, this week has picked Mulholland Drive, which I was ecstatic about, not because I'm a big Lynch fanboy or a fan of the film, but because I just know what David Lynch is like, and I cannot wait to hear how much Alex hates it.
I went in completely blind. I had this kind of preconception that David Lynch is this very well-known director, which he is. Like, that's not untrue. I just thought in my head I knew what a David Lynch film would be like, and it'd just be like, very good. And that's subjective, obviously. I hated it. I fucking hated it. I hated that film. That 2 hours and 20 minutes, that was. Like, yeah. And I will never get it back.
So excited. I literally, when Nathan said Mulholland Drive, I was like, oh yes. Please, please hate this.
I think it was such so it wasn't my suggestion. Hazel had suggested it because she's quite a big David Lynch fan. We'd watched Twin Peaks together, so I kind of knew what I was going into because I had seen Twin Peaks, and Twin Peaks is the way that he directs actors is very, very similar. The way that he writes the dialogue is from at least from the two things that I've seen, consistent across the board of at least those two. So I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, well,
I knew it was going to be.
I've never actually seen anything he's made, David Lynch, which is weird because I really immerse myself in filmmakers and auteurs and stuff like that, but I've never been interested really because I think one thing that perfectly sums him up, there was someone I knew at university on our course. I can't remember who it was, but I was talking to them. They were talking about Twin Peaks, and they said the phrase, "Twin Peaks is American Horror Story for people with taste." And I was like, okay, you've just told me everything I need to know about David Lynch fans and his films, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing was like his interview stuff. So there's like that really great clip of him being like, when he's getting interviews, and he's like, "Believe it or not, Eraserhead's my most spiritual film." And the guy's like, "Elaborate on that," and he goes, "No."
Fair enough. And I mean, on the same token, like you've said that about the guy at uni. Like, yeah. I think I sent, because after watching it, very similar to Donnie Darko, I was like, what the fuck have I just watched? And I'm gonna read what other people think. And I sent through last night a snippet of a review that was in Empire, and it says, "Set in a hyper-noir LA, enveloped in night, the color and texture of a bruise, the film pulsates with disquiet. And with the waving anemone strands of its storylines, Lynch weaves a tapestry of unease."
Right, listen, I will just say, if you read anything like Shakespeare prose, it's going to sound wanky.
It is wanky! It is!
I agree it is.
Yeah.
I agree
that
it
is the most
It's accurate.
It's accurate, but put your fucking thesaurus down
wanky.
And use regular words. And the thing is, he says, like, he uses, builds this thing of disquiet.
Yeah.
And then later uses, in the same paragraph, the word unease. But when I looked up, like, I've heard, like, disquieting, like, I've heard it used. I've never heard someone just use disquiet as, like, a noun.
I've never heard it before.
It means unease.
Oh.
I know!
To be fair, any good writer
right,
should use a thesaurus rather than just using
you wouldn't
the
use
same words
the same
over
word.
and over.
Yeah.
I know. but that wasn't the only. I read the whole thing and it sucked. I was like, fuck me.
Did you like the review more or less than the film?
Hey?
I haven't consumed anything after watching it, mainly because I finished it at 3 a.m. But this morning I didn't. But normally I would, like I was talking about when I watched Synecdoche, New York, and I immediately went on and started watching video essays and stuff like that because you think you have an understanding of something and then you want to expand it more. But I didn't on this occasion, and I think it just all suddenly clicked into place with me what it was all about. I could be completely wrong, but I thought I got it. But we'll get to that, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, let's say first of all, if you haven't seen it, we are going to be talking about it. Pretty spoiler happy, trigger happy with spoilers. So if you care, don't watch this.
We could just be wrong, you know.
We could also be wrong. I mean, we're going to talk about the film.
It's spoiler-tastic, but we could just completely interpret it the wrong.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing. I think because when I did start looking up, I was like, because the credits. Me and Hazel watched it together. It was like on the black screen. I was like, "Don't do this! Don't do this! I need more. What's happening right now? What the?" And then the credits started appearing. I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! What?" I was like, immediately on my phone.
Billy Ray Cyrus is so high up there.
yeah.
He must have helped finance this. Like, what is happening? He was like the third name.
Also, I want to point out about that Billy Ray Cyrus scene. He hears the woman he's sleeping with, presumably to him because he can't see it, being beaten up in the next room. Yeah. And he still takes the time to hop out of bed and put a vest and jeans on. Like,
it's Billy Ray
no
Cyrus.
rush. Get me mullet in place.
True. True. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I was just thinking, why the fuck is Billy Ray Cyrus here?
When Justin Theroux opened the door, Billy Ray Cyrus inside in bed, I laughed out
just
loud.
Like this.
Yeah.
It was just
howdy.
Forget you ever saw it was the line. I was thinking, who is that relaxed in that situation?
Out loud. And I'm sure it was deliberate that it was supposed to make you laugh because David Lynch is sort of kooky, isn't he? But
have you seen? I don't know if you've seen. Oh, you guys haven't seen it. He has a Netflix short film. I didn't enjoy it, but it's him having a conversation with a monkey.
Oh, so David Lynch.
I didn't enjoy it, but he's a strange.
What did they talk about?
Bananas.
I don't know.
Fuck off.
No, it's quite serious. It's like a heart-to-heart with a monkey.
Race war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genocide. Sexism.
So I mean, I don't know what. I've made not like in-depth notes. I kind of was just like anything that sort of sprung to mind. A lot of it is. It's less to do with story because I feel like we could talk about that. It was more about the way that he was using camera movements, which is something I felt was quite prominent in the film. There was lots of like pushing in very, very quickly and lots of POV shots.
Handheld POVs.
Lots and lots of that to like that scene outside the diner where they're moving towards that wall. In of itself is a very, very kind of bland shot, but obviously the following on from that scene that he was saying about this dream that he had, and it was this person and that he was frightened of and the guy was frightened in as well in this dream. It kind of sets up that thing where you're like, there's something around the corner, something's about to happen, and it keeps pushing in until that.
And because I've seen enough cinema and enough horror and anything like that, I was obviously expecting something to come, but when that thing appeared, I was so horrified. And I'm like, I love horror films and stuff like that, but man, that thing, I nearly shat my pants.
Yeah,
it is horrible looking.
Yeah,
it's pretty grim. But I think the main thing, if you're gonna go and watch it, because me and Max went in essentially blind.
Yeah.
Having not seen any David Lynch, I had probably heard even less than Max.
Yeah, I at least knew what he was about.
Yeah, if you're looking for a story as a beginning, a middle, and an end, if you're looking for linear storytelling, fuck off right now. You're not gonna get it. That's not what it's about. It's not even non-linear storytelling. You look at like Pulp Fiction, which is like a non-linear story. It's not plot. It's very much. I mean, there's plot within it.
I would disagree.
I disagree.
I would say that there is. Maybe it's because not this like you didn't understand the film. I think it was like it was more of like
you can fuck out of here, buddy.
I felt the same. I was like, what is happening? And then I think maybe I don't know what Max you thought the film was about, but I think when it does click, whatever your interpretation is, you're like, I see that is that,
Yeah.
and then you're like, you have to kind of backtrack it from the point of when you clock what's going on or what you think is going on.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Exactly.
But as you're following it along, it feels disjointed.
Well,
Yeah,
at the end,
I will say,
I basically said, one of my final notes was, is this just the story of someone very mentally unwell? Like,
Well,
genuinely,
yes.
as a genuine
Yeah.
thought. I was thinking, okay, well, she's clearly disassociated in a massive way at some point. And, you know, there's pieces to put together, and I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But it's still just too fucking bizarre. And there's bits that don't ever really get picked back up, and that frustrates me.
And I'll explain why my interpretation covers that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll give it a sort of general view. Like, I started out hating the film.
Me
I
too.
really, really did. I was like, God, this is fucking slow. The audio's clearly overdubbed. It feels like it's from 91, not 2001. And it's just like, oh, man, this is just... And then there's parts of it that I'm like, it's so wanky. And then there's parts that are really good, where it's like building tension. And then they'll cut to Justin Theroux's scenes, and they completely ruin the pace. And it's like, he's got this weird cool dude thing going at the start, and that does change later. I will also just add, Justin Theroux has the worst trim in the history of cinema.
He also got the worst smile. He goes like...
Yeah. But yeah, so that I found that really disjointing. And then there was so much stuff, like characters coming into it and suddenly disappearing from it and being like, who were they? What was that about? What's the cowboy guy all about? What's cultural appropriation landlord doing? You know? Like,
yeah, I did question that. I said, is she meant to be?
No, I don't really know. But anyway, and then, so I was starting to think, okay, big car crash at the start. She's dead, right? Betty may have died on that aeroplane. And the director may have died in some other way. And they're all in purgatory, is what I was thinking, watching it. And all of these characters that are coming into it are angels, or whatever you'd say, to guide them on a path as to whether they get to heaven or hell.
Okay.
So, for instance, the old people at the start, who, when they get Betty into LA and then they start like maniacally laughing in the car, is because they're like demons, and they're like, haha, we've got her into purgatory, you know, right? That's what I was thinking. And then then they show at the end what happens, and I get it, because I can't believe I'm saying this, but David Lynch has made a film that I think is really good and really works, with the reveal that it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Right? So she wakes up from a dream, and then it shows the stuff from her real life, where it's like I've forgotten Rita's real name, but her in her
Camilla.
Yeah, Camilla in Diane's real life
yeah.
was her ex-lover, and then leaves her for this director, and her life falls apart, and then she hires a hit on Diane, on Camilla, and then the blue key signifies that she is now dead, and that's tearing her apart, and then she can't tell the difference between what's real and a dream anymore, so she kills herself at the end. That's how I saw it. And the fact that it's all a dream makes sense, because you see, like, the cowboy guy was just like some guy that walked past her at a dinner party, and that's why
I interpreted that slightly differently. Like, I actually, if that is the case, although it is kind of that it was all a dream, it wasn't all a dream, because there's some story after that. I'd rather it be kind of 3/4 in than the end, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but it would kind of make sense-ish.
Yeah.
But I actually, one of the things that in the conversation between the director and the cowboy, he says, like, if you do this right, if you're good, you'll see me one more time. If you're bad, you'll see me 2 more times. And I think when I was watching it at that point in time, that's the second point in time that she's seen the cowboy. I believe. So there's.
And when do we see him again? Because that's the first time we see him. Then the second time's in the dinner party. Is that the only time we see him?
I swear
that's the third time he's in the dinner party, and the second time he's like, I can't remember where he is, but they cut to him. I think it might be when they find the dead body.
He says, "Wake up." He says to her, like, "Wake
up."
Oh
yeah, yes.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah.
That's
he does.
the first time she's seen him, and that's the first time we see her see him.
And then she sees him again at the dinner party.
And that's almost like an indication that she did bad at some point.
Yeah.
And so therefore, she's fucked through him. But I like to think it's Max's interpretation, because that's far more...
So my interpretation was very similar to Max's, except the point at which it happens is different. So my interpretation was that all of the things that had happened prior to this sort of realization of the audience that we see that it's actually Diane, is in the car on the way to the party. So she's in her head thinking, like, what if her car crashed and died? Well, she didn't die, but everyone died. Her car crashed. But now she's got amnesia. So she could be my lover again because she doesn't know who she is. And the entire thing is, like, her imagination on the way to that party. And we find out, actually, maybe they were together, maybe they weren't. We're not. I don't think we quite know. But she's jealous that Camilla is actually with. Is he Adam in the real life?
Yeah.
But he is in the.
He's still Adam.
Right, so he's still Adam.
I believe.
So she's jealous that they're together. Whether they were together or not, I'm not entirely sure. But I think, yes, it's still like a dream, but in my imagination, I feel like it was less of like a dream, and it was more of like she was thinking of the things that could happen for them to be together.
Like
okay,
daydream.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That too makes sense.
Yeah.
I hated. So, kind of the thing that triggers all of that is the sequence in Silencio. The kind of. That's how we get back to quote unquote real life.
Yeah.
She's in Silencio. They've had this like weird looking key. I've written funky key, comma, funky. Yep. And
That was not good.
yeah.
Not even.
I wasn't taking it seriously at that point in time. And then the box that key opens appears in Betty's purse. They go home.
Yeah.
Betty's gone. And I did kind of write down, like, was Betty ever there? Is Camilla Betty? It was something that I was trying to clock. I was like, She opens the box, and we the audience camera zooms into the box, into the blackness.
Yeah.
And I was like, did she just get fucking sucked into this box? Is that... What the fuck is going on?
The way I saw it
I hated
was
that.
the blue key is a MacGuffin through the whole movie. And it's like, okay, so this is clearly an important thing. And then when she finally gets the key and unlocks the box, she sort of falls in it, and then the fact that she falls down, that to me felt like when you're in a dream and something just like happens and you finally unlocked it and you fall through something and then you wake up because you've fallen. So it's just that box is the MacGuffin the whole way through of her way to wake up, and she needs to find the key to wake it up. And the reason that there's a blue key is because in real life she's got the actual blue key thing, and it's just her brain making those, interpretations of that thing. That's
blue
how
key
I
and
saw
the purse
it.
full of money. That for the hit.
That when they were in the diner and they were saying about like you gotta pay, I was like, it's gonna be the fucking purse, isn't it? It's gonna be a purse full of money. And it's just like, it's almost like that whole...
It is though. It's almost like the same purse,
but it's not,
but just like less money.
Quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of how I suppose that's kind of how dreams are. It's like
exactly
it's
right.
It's the thing, but like not quite.
It's a bit different, and that's kind of the thing that I found through the whole film was just how it was just so like uncanny valley all the time, Like, things are happening, and you're like, this is really weird, and I can't figure out why. And one, that is because that is David Lynch films, for a one. If you've seen Twin Peaks, or if you go and watch Twin Peaks, it's very, very similar. The dialogue is quite weird. The acting is a bit weird. But then Twin Peaks is also about, like, this kind of, like, is it supernatural, is it not? Like, there's that kind of element to it. So you can kind of understand, you're like, oh, well, maybe they're all just a bit weird. Maybe they're impacted by the supernatural thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like, oh, it makes sense because it's a dream. Or it's daydreaming. It's not real life, whatever it is. And you can kind of be like, oh, it all makes sense now. Why what I was watching was so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like you feel like you're clever, even though you're not. That's how I felt after, like, that reveal. I was like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
But I'm still so confused.
Like, I think...
Yeah, like, I figure parts of it out, and then there's parts of it that I'm still like, what was that about?
Yeah.
Well, now that we're kind of settling in on kind of daydream, essentially up until a particular point, isn't real. I think actually the Silencio sequence lends credence to that, and that it's almost, if that's the case, that scene is the movie telling you that is the case. Yeah. Because the whole time he's saying, there's no band. That scene is, do not believe what you're seeing.
Yeah.
None of it's real.
Yeah.
And it's from that point on. It's interesting. Does that mean everything you have seen hasn't been real? Or everything you're gonna see isn't real? And that's kind of the head fuck of it. Like, it even tricks the audience. Because when the Spanish lady was singing that song, it was like, really, it was drawing me in. And kind of, you think, okay, that bit about everything's recorded on a tape and the kind of Bo Burnham, like, boing.
Yeah, I did think of that.
Yeah, like the to a T, like, blocking of that particular section. He leaves, someone else comes on, and I'm like, okay, it's a new bit in this bizarre show. She's singing this song, and then collapses, but the song's still being sung.
He keeps going,
So, it's done the trick of, it's just shown you, again, you've fallen for it immediately, but maybe it's not the second time you've fallen for it. It's actually the third, because the rest of the film has been
well, I think that's the thing.
Point.
It's the thing that, and you have to give props to David Lynch for doing that, because it's basically, he's telling you straight up in the film, very, very obviously, this thing is about to happen. You're about to fall for it again.
Yeah.
And then does it again in the same scene, and you go, how could I forget? I've literally just watched that thing happen. And I mean, like, that is a good directional
you feel like
choice.
A fucking idiot.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, that is good directing. That is good writing. That's good storytelling.
Yeah.
You know,
that's one thing in that I couldn't figure out. A man with a mustache comes out onto the stage, and I swear we've seen him already in the film, but I cannot remember for the life of me where.
He turns up at the door of Justin. Is it Justin Theroux's house? Or he's someone that knocks on the door at some point. But again, that's just it. He's as is everyone in that film who's like a side character who you're like, where have we seen them before, or what were they all about? We've not even seen them.
Back.
It's because in Diane's real life they were just passing figures that her dream brain has projected a personality and a voice onto. So all of their audio is overdubbed, and the at times the sound mixing is just actively bad, and you're like, why does it sound so shit? I don't get it. Like, why is the dialogue so quiet? And it just all pays into this weird, like you were talking about before, like this fever dream atmosphere and this creepy, eerie silence that just drifts all the way through it, that you're like, whatever is going on here, there is something up with this place that they're in.
Yeah,
and
I'm glad you mentioned the silence, actually, because that was one of the big things that I'd written down watching it. I'm like, the ability to not have music there is so strong in this
Sometimes
film.
audio. There are moments where they cut, like, I think it is silence. It's not even
there are bits,
ambient.
but when you have, like, because then they start bringing in that, like, kind of synth music for the bits, you start to really feel like, holy shit, something's happening, because the music is now coming in and something important is about to go down. Like when they go into the apartment where they're looking for Diane Selwyn, and they go, like, she's like, that was the one thing I couldn't understand. I was like, why is she climbing into this house?
Yeah.
And again, it's the same thing, like, it makes sense. Oh, right, it's all a dream. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
Everything's exaggerated, that kind of thing. But they go into
They have police at the start investigating the crash. Nothing comes of it.
Yeah.
It's all a dream.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
But what I was saying about that the bit I was saying about that with the music, as soon as you hear that when they're about to, I don't know if it's when they're about to go in or when they go knock on the door, but as soon as you hear the music, you're like, something is now not right.
Yeah.
Because through the whole of this sequence, there's been no music. And now there is, and this is going to be something really big. And
then she opens the door, and she's like...
Yeah.
And you're like, dead bodies in there?
That point of... Even though you know what's going to come, you know they're going to find a body. That slow, like, point of view movement towards it. Yeah. You just kind of, like...
And the face, you can't see the face.
Yeah.
Like, even when you see the face... It's not really much of a
You don't know.
It got shot off, didn't
it? Did.
But then is that like a premonition? Does she foresee her own suicide? Or has it already happened?
It's...
Like, what's...
It's a premonition, right? In theory. In the way that
in our interpretation.
In the way that I interpret it, it's she wakes up from the dream and then kills herself.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mix. Maybe it's a dream and she's in purgatory and it's all fucking David Lynch. David Lynch.
Yeah. Well, yes, because in the dream, her neighbor hasn't picked up her things yet, and then in real life, you see her come round and pick up the things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she picks up the ashtray, but then immediately the ashtray.
And then the ashtray back.
So then, is she dreaming again? Is she just fantasizing? Because then
that's the thing.
Comes into the sex scene.
Can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
One is reality and one's not, though. That's
kind of the next. If we're gonna go to a point of conversation, can we address the characters that we see that don't end up having much of a relevance or apparent relevance, and kind of just explore what we think they're for. So kind of namely, the two guys in the diner, in kind of like the beginning where he's talking about his nightmare, which is nightmare-y. The guy who's kind of controlling everything from that room with the perspex glass.
Yeah.
And he seems to be pulling the strings everywhere, but then kind of from halfway through the film, he's not really around again. And I'd like to talk about the Hitman a little bit, that sequence.
Yeah.
So if we start with the guys in the dream, but not the guys in the dream. The guys
That's all of them.
About the dream. Yeah. The guys talk about the dream, and you almost feel like it's a dream because when he's outside, you have that moment where he's speaking, but it's like,
well,
which is something that happens in dreams.
One of them, the eyebrows guy, is staring right at her in real life, at Diane when she's in the diner when she's ordering the hit. She's getting stared at.
Yeah.
And then his scene.
And it's where he says he sees the man.
Yeah.
No, it's the same diner, but it's not the same scene.
Okay.
No, but so he says like in his dream he sees the person that he's frightened of in the place where he's stood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, he seemed like a character in Diane's brain. I'm going to say Betty. In Diane's brain, that is sort of the catalyst for how she's thinking, in that everything he describes at the start about having these horrible nightmares that he can't tell if they're real or not is what happens to her. So her brain then picks up that from him, and I don't know, it's tricky in it, but that's sort of how I thought about it. He seems like he's the one that's setting it all off for her, because she sees him early on in her journey in real life when she orders the hit for the first time. So he's one of the first people she sees.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. Nathan?
I don't have an explanation for it, honestly.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, so I guess this is the interpretation for all the characters, is that it's kind of inconsequential. They don't, if they don't have a relevance to the, they're there for a reason, and he knew what they were, and I think it's open to interpretation, because I don't even think he said what the actual meaning of the film is. I think the whole point is that things are there to be open to interpretation, and you believe what they are, whether it's right or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. I think it's interesting because they were all men, all those characters, and in my notes, I had written down while watching it, every male character in this is absolutely abhorrent, and I want to punch them in the face. And I think,
why do you think those two guys fall under that character? That characteristic?
Well, I mean, they're just sort of like weird dudes, aren't they? Like the guy that he's talking to has a very manipulative vibe about him. Trying
the other one doesn't have very nice eyebrows.
And the other one's got horrible eyebrows and sees horrible muddy hobos. No, but like, all right, for the most part, most of the main males in this are weird and actively bad people.
Yeah.
And I just sort of interpreted that at the end of being that, in Diane's life, all of the things that she's, suffering from have sort of, to her, been caused by men. Her career's going down the toilet because a director that hired Camilla instead of her didn't like her. He's a man.
My God.
Creepy film execs and stuff like that.
It's just
in
hit
her
me.
life.
Oh.
When you said that.
We've had a realization.
The guy, so yeah, it's about one of these characters, that guy sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
It's her imagination of why her career failed, because it's this one person pulling all the strings that makes it go wrong for her. This is the girl. You don't hire anyone else. We've already decided who it is.
That makes sense.
She feels like that. She feels like, I didn't get a choice. Like, I didn't get any of these roles. I didn't get my career. Because they had already decided it was going to be someone else. This person, this mysterious man pulling all the strings, has already decided, and everyone's in on it, that they don't want me.
Yeah.
But then why does that have any consequence? Because then you've got the sequences with Adam smashing up the car, and then he gets tracked down to his house that he's not there at because he's been kicked out of his wife after finding out that she cheated on him.
With Billy Ray Cyrus.
If that's the case, why is there so... And like his moment with the cowboy, why is that consequential to this guy's actions if he's not real?
Well, it's all her interpretation, isn't it? It's just the way
so we have to... These
thinks.
bits are still in her dream.
I suppose she's... If we're not going down the dream route, and we're going down more Nathan's route of kind of...
It's still a dream of
It's
sorts.
still the dream route.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going down that, then perhaps you could argue that it's her constructing reason to her completely irrational thought.
That's exactly what it is. I just think it's then her dream is her brain's nighttime interpretation of that rationale that she's created for herself, and how it manifests itself in evil and cruelty and sex and other things that are vices in her life.
Yeah. I would say it would maybe explain away some of the issues I had with it from a kind of film point of view.
Well, do you want to go through some of the issues that you have with it? Because it would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, it would be funny to hear as well.
Golf club. Straight off the bat. Golf club.
Who keeps him at the front door, right? Weird.
No, not that. He's
car.
in his meeting with the directors. He has the golf club on the table. Why? And it seems to me that it is only there so that he can have it to smash up the fucking car.
Yeah.
There's no other... But in terms of a film, in terms of like something having a motivation to be there, even if he'd been golfing, he put it in his car, drove to his meeting, took it back out
Yeah.
of his car to have a meeting.
Well, if you think of it this way, like, as maybe that's a thing that happened in real life that Diane knows about, but she's dreaming about it. So the way that her dream makes the connection is there just happened to be a golf club in the room that he was in. You know how dreams just make up logic.
A golf club.
Yeah, a lot of my issues stem from not knowing what's coming.
Yeah, I feel like any of your issues now are going to be like just
it was a dream,
me going, it was a dream.
Yeah,
and it reminds me of that scene in Futurama when it's like they're doing like a Comic-Con panel and they're all raising like questions about major plots, and then they're like, anyone that has any more questions about that, any plot holes, a wizard did it.
Essentially. What else do we have? In terms of it as a film, whether it's obscure or a dream, it's fucking slow to get going.
It's slow. That is, yeah.
I have here, from the car crash, for 8 minutes, we see Camilla/Rita walk around, hide in a bush, fall asleep, wake up, walk some more, lie down, and fall asleep again.
You know, I actually, I very much agree with the fact that it was slow getting at the start, but I thought that scene was necessarily slow. I could understand that one. You know, it was setting in this idea that she's, you know, not all there. She's, you know, seems concussed, and it's revealed to be amnesia, and she's really confused. And the fact that she just, you know, she's on a road and she just sees the city lights of LA, and her instinct is to walk down through the woods instead of just follow the roads along because it's a straight path. I feel like that just made sense for that whole sequence to be really slow, and I was like, okay, it's building to something here, but then it didn't. So that's where my beef comes after it, is then it's just really slow, and it's like, okay, time to go and cut to Justin Theroux and with his shit haircut and his silly glasses and doing cool dude, acting like a cool dude, and then eventually that changes, but it's agony to watch at first.
But like you said, she's concussed. She's just been in a car accident. Concussed, amnesia, whatever. I would want not slow. She is concussed. She's walking through this wooded area. She's hiding from any person she sees. And you're kind of confused, and you're like, what's going on? But I would never have thought that would be the choice to go with was slow. I would go with kind of shaky or choppy with the angles, because she's kind of, her head's spinning, and she's just been saw the car crash.
Nasty.
Fair play to them for doing that. They weren't in the car, I'm aware. I mean, for the stunt itself,
did it make you think as well, like, because you can imagine for her it was obviously pretty rough being in any car crash is shit, but imagine those kids who were like hanging out the top of the car going in a car crash that fast. You're like, oh, they probably got cut in half.
She's probably seen some horrible stuff. Kind of, if it was a modern day film that was a linear plot, you'd get like she'd be walking through the woods, you'd be like close in on her and then far away, but you'd still hear that like after an explosion that you always get. Also, anyone making a film, don't use that. It's so annoying. So annoying. I hate it. Sorry, back to the film.
I just thought that scene in particular is one of the cases of there are many in this film where it's just creating this sense of unease and dread in its silence and its slow building pace. So I liked it. I liked that opening. I just thought then it suddenly gets weird, which makes sense because it's a dream. It makes sense at the end.
Weird
but
first. I think actually we should, if we're gonna start at the
the
start,
openings.
We should start at the start of the start.
Yeah.
Like this is before opening credits, which is we'll get to them. The opening, I've written opening, fucking bizarre, immediate feeling of what the fuck is going on. Maybe sets the tone or feeling, which it does.
It does.
I don't think it's ever explained or like called back to. I don't know. We've got this purple background.
Yeah.
There's people dancing, like kind of composited onto this purple. They're just like, woo, yeah.
Well,
and then
they're
we
all
kind of see
green
Betty's.
screen.
Yeah.
And they're all the same people.
Yeah.
Like,
but then
duplicated.
Betty is at the very end kind of starts to fade into view, and then it fades out of view again, and then we're at the opening credits, which is it's something that thankfully films stopped doing, but they haven't stopped doing opening credits. Something that I don't like is like kind of, you look at like kind of pre-2000s films. I know this is post-2000. Just long ass opening credits.
Yeah.
That don't actually, like, the film's not really started. It's just unnecessary. We see a car driving down a road for the entirety of the opening credits, and then we're in the car with Camilla / Rita / Betty / Diane.
Well, she's not Betty or Diane.
But is she?
Well, no, all right.
They're not.
If that's how you interpret it, then good for you. Well, I suppose, it's her manifestation of Camilla. So, in a way, it is her, because it's her brain creating a person. Yeah. But yeah, that opening shot, I think it might tie into, when she's watching the auditions for that weird musical role that Justin Theroux's directing. Maybe it ties into that, but I found it very weird. It reminded me of the transition shots in Austin Powers.
Yeah, yes, definitely. That is a very apt.
Yeah, that was my instinct for it. Was just picturing him.
Groovy baby.
Groovy baby.
I mean, I guess we've kind of, I would say we've kind of covered at least story and plot of it. I mean, I feel like, unless you guys have anything else to add to what you thought
plot-wise,
about anything else you wanted to jump in and add.
I very much wrote down, in terms of notes, this is the first time I've written notes for the podcast, and it's a lot of them, but they are very much like, I've seen something, I've had a thought and written it down, and a lot of them are ridiculous and stupid. I put Blondie from the opening rocked up in LAX with her nan and her cardigan, and just in capital letters, "Okay, Irene."
Yeah.
That gets me on to the point of dialogue. I know a time limit, but dialogue and delivery of said dialogue. At the first half of the film, and okay, it's a dream.
Yep.
But it sucks.
Yeah.
It's stilted. It's slow. The guys in the diner having that conversation about his dream, the pauses between each of their sentences. It's like someone's taken the raw footage of that and that, chopped it without
They've cut it in the wrong place.
Conversation.
Yeah. In my notes, I have in capitals.
So tell me about the dream.
What is this dialogue?
So in the dream, and I'm like...
But the thing is, so it's not just the dialogue, because in that scene, and I didn't write it down, but I remember thinking it, like, the guy with the eyebrows, his facial expressions go from, like, he's, like, smiling, and then straight to, like, nothing, and then says his line, and then it cuts to the other guy who does a similar thing, and it is really, really bizarre. Again, I knew what, like, to me, I was... Because I kind of knew about what David Lynch is kind of like, not massively, because I've not seen any of his other films, but at least in Twin Peaks, I was like, okay, this is just a bit weird. He's just a weird guy, right? Like, I'm just going to keep going. Like, I didn't particularly think this is going to be what I guess the whole film is going to be like, which it isn't. After the dream, it does get a little bit less bizarre in the way that
the dream is
directed.
Most of the film.
Yeah, 90%.
Yeah, it's about
it's more
3/4 of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just take issue with the dialogue. And again, it is kind of one of those situations. A wizard did it, whatever. But,
yeah.
I mean, I've got... What else do I have? Look at my digs. Times are tough, bro.
Yeah.
What?
I could not tell in that scene if that guy... I knew that it was supposed to be weird acting, because I got that from Irene at the start. Irene told me everything I needed to know. So I was like, okay, I get it. But then I was like, I think it's a mix of that and this guy fucking sucks as well. That check out my digs line. I was
Look at
like...
my digs. Yeah.
Yeah, cringe.
And then, I mean, something that Hannah was aware of already, she was saying, like, this is the guy who does all the close-ups, right? And some of them are like, apparently, she couldn't remember if it was David Lynch or someone else, but she was fairly sure it was David Lynch. I said I don't have a fucking clue, but throughout the film, there's a lot of interesting use of close-up. In particular, in that scene, once the guy gets shot in the head, there's just like this out of nowhere close-up of like a clump of his long hair with the blood dripping sideways.
It's sick, that, isn't it?
It's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like, and then there's that whole thing where he's shot through the wall, and he's
so
shot
funny.
the lady next door, and then tries to choke her.
And the lady next door screams exactly like R2D2. It's really distracting.
I also put that up. I was like,
shit.
not great sound design. The punch hits, the scream reminiscent of Star Wars.
I was literally just about to say that the punches are very Hollywood, aren't they? But it makes but it makes sense, doesn't it?
It's a dream.
Because it's a dream, but she's dreaming about Hollywood. Mm-hmm. It makes sense that everything would be like, she would imagine like, this is what it sounds like when someone gets punched. Even though, you know, when like the Justin Theroux's wife was like jumping on that guy's back and he hits her, it would obviously be like a dump sound, but it's like it's ridiculous.
You just want the graphic like pow up on the front. But like that scene in and of itself. So the guy goes in, he kills this guy. It's clearly someone he kind of knows.
Yeah.
He then tries to make it look like suicide, but accidentally shoots through the wall, shooting
Hits
the
a
neighbor,
lady.
who thinks she's been bitten by a bug when he goes to see what's going on. He then tries to kill her. It doesn't go to plan. He ends up like dragging her into the other room, and a cleaner sees him doing this, and he's like, help. Kills her in the room. The cleaner shows up in the room. He kills the cleaner. The vacuum cleaner starts going off.
So
he shoots that, and the fire alarm goes off, and it's all fucking nuts. And it's funny. It's like it's one of the few kind of moments of kind of comedy.
It felt like a scene from The Nice Guys.
Yeah. One of those kind of chaotic, catastrophic, like, series of, you know, events.
Yeah.
But what does it do? What does that do for the film? I know we learn that he's an assassin.
Yeah.
Or a hitman.
Well, something that
but where's the relevance to anything?
I think the cleaner is sat next to her at the dinner.
Oh yes, he is. Oh my god, yes, yeah.
He's the guy that they're like. He's like talking to her about stuff, and she's like obviously just like watching Camilla the whole time. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
Yeah, it is. I'd recognize that shit trim anywhere. Definitely him.
To summarize this film, a lot of bad haircuts. That's basically it.
It's more the spiky wet look Justin Theroux that I'm not a fan of.
Those thick rim glasses.
Yeah.
And this smile.
I've never really rated him as an actor, to be honest.
Don't know him.
Was he in Parks and Rec?
Is he?
That one
Let's
time.
have a quick look.
Maybe.
Unless I'm misremembering. But wasn't he as Leslie's boyfriend?
He is in it, yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Plays Justin Anderson.
Justin, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know him as Louis Theroux's brother mostly. That's kind of it.
Are they related?
Is he?
Yeah, did you not know that?
Is it another one of these where we don't know when people are related?
No, they definitely are. It's his half brother.
Are they?
Yeah.
Half brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I think his dad moved to America or something after Louis was born,
What the fuck
or
am I looking at?
the other way around.
I'm gonna quickly share my screen with the guys. Sorry to audio listeners and probably video listeners because they're not gonna be. I just typed in Justin Theroux brother, and this is what's come up.
Okay.
It says Justin Theroux brother, Sebastian Theroux, and then a picture of Dave Franco.
Dave Franco.
I don't know what has gone on with Google. But, I mean, it's not Louis Theroux.
Louis Theroux is his brother.
Just type in our Louis
see there,
Theroux,
it's there. People also ask underneath.
There we go. Justin Louis Theroux related, but he's gonna type it.
They're cousins.
Oh right. There we go.
Still
I thought
related.
they were brothers.
I'll take it.
Oh well.
That's okay.
It
It's
counts.
two brothers. It's just
Two brothers. They're cousins.
But I mean, I guess kind of any problem I have with most of the film can be explained away. My main thing, I said to Nathan, this acting is terrible, and you said, what's her name?
Naomi Watts.
Not Nicole Kidman.
Naomi Watts. Not Nicole Kidman. Better Nicole Kidman.
Nathan was like, Naomi Watts' acting in this is amazing, and I'm like, I'm halfway through the film thinking, eh?
Yeah, I had just
I was
finished
genuinely concerned about your bar.
That last 40 minutes, though.
Yeah, it was good.
Spectacular.
But then again, so reading about it, you know, some of it's in the first half. She is this kind of idyllic, new Hollywood girl who's kind of naive and silly and not quite all there.
Yeah.
And then
she keeps saying,
she becomes.
She keeps saying, "LA's a dream."
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh God. And it is.
It is.
Whoa, he keeps telling us, man.
Crazy.
Whoa. No, but I couldn't decide if it was an actual choice or if she's just better at playing dramatic. Because her best acting was when she was acting.
That scene in the...
Oh, wow, yeah.
When she was,
that was insane. For again, like in Silencio, in that sequence, I kind of forgot what the rest of the film was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, sick, we're in the film. And this is a film, and it's all very good.
To me, that was because she never got that role in real life. So she was sort of playing it. And you don't know what's happening at first because you've seen her audition it with...
really bad,
with
not
Rita,
badly, but like
really a soap
different.
opera, sort of.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the point, because they laugh about it at the end.
Yeah,
they laugh about
exactly.
how ridiculous the dialogue is.
Like a telenovela.
And then, so you see it played out like that, and then you get to see, especially watching it now, you know, in the climate of what we know has happened in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you see this older male actor be like, okay, we'll start the scene from here, and pulls it insanely close.
That made me so uncomfortable.
And you're like, what? No, don't do this. This whole, like, a full room full of men and, like, women who just seem to be sat there like, oh, God. And you're like, I know exactly what's going on here.
It.
And then they do that amazing shot where she puts his hand on her hip.
He's almost, like, hesitant to do it.
Yeah.
And she, like, pulls him in.
Yeah, and she puts... And it's like... It changes the entire mood instantly.
Yeah.
And that scene.
But it's still so uncomfortable to watch, though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely no.
Because they play the whole thing very close to just them. They don't go to the rest of the room.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be. You don't need to see people's reactions to it.
Because
that
their
would just
reactions
completely
are
kill
your
it.
reaction.
Yeah.
You're kind of like.
I too was like.
Yeah.
It was.
I think I wrote
it was
it's the
very
best
good.
acting. Also, 45 minutes in, they finally say it. They finally say Mulholland Drive. Sorry.
Yeah, but it is shown on like a signpost, like at the start.
Right at the start.
I guess. I just felt like Peter Griffin. They said it. They said it.
That's the name of the film.
Yeah, I thought her acting in the dramatic sequences, even within the dream, felt more natural and good.
I think it was just because of it was very deliberate that she's supposed to be this doe-eyed, you know, expectant young actress at the start, and it's supposed to be weird, and you get in this constant vibe that it feels like almost like a commercial, you know, like it feels weird. So I think it was deliberate because she can play positively. But then
you can see it in that film.
Yeah. But then look at her in like a film like The Impossible. Like she's good at drama.
What a fucking film!
Well, that's all right. What a fucking story.
That too.
Is
Yeah.
that the one with
Little
Ewan
baby
McGregor?
Tom Holland.
Yeah. Little baby Tom
like
Holland. He's good in that actually.
With his mouth full of frogs.
So I mean, there's one thing that I do really want to talk about, which is I found was very prominent through the whole thing, which was staying on a shot for an excruciatingly long time.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in particular when
It's probably the one I've got written down.
They're in the house. I think it's Diane at this point. We know Betty's not Betty, it's Diane.
Yeah.
And she's in the kitchen, and it's just a close-up of like almost like a profile, maybe like just off angle, for a good 20 seconds or something. And I was there just like...
Yeah.
like hiding the whole time, because I was like, something is about to happen. Like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, I was...
Makes you so
I just didn't
uncomfortable
want to watch
scene.
it. I was... Because, you know, from watching film, and this is the thing that I found really interesting about the whole film, it kind of subverts expectation of what you already know is the language of cinema.
Yeah.
Because you know, the point of view shot's walking forward, it's going to reveal something. Something's going to be coming around the wall. It still frightens you. A close-up of someone for a long time, it's going to cut to something else. They're going to see something. It's going to... Yeah, exactly.
And I can't think
and it never does it, though.
The composition of it entirely. Is the negative space in front or behind?
It's like next to her.
Okay.
I think it's almost half and half.
Yeah.
So like she's on right side of frame looking left. I can't remember exactly because I wasn't watching it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was hiding.
It's when she just made that coffee, right?
Where she thought she was talking to Camilla, and then she looks up and it's herself, and we cut to the wide, and it's just one person in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that wide, there is her. Before it's it shows it's Camilla, and then that's when it's that shot
where she almost doesn't want to look.
And then it's revealed to be her. She's looking at herself making coffee.
And that happens a lot.
So
a lot
uneasy.
of those really, really like just holding that shot for what feels like far too long. Because it kind of gets past the point where you're like, this has gone on for too long, and now you're like, I'm very uncomfortable right now. It does that so well.
Yeah, it reminded me of Kubrick in that way. Especially with those sort of POV shots, you know, of Kubrick sort of in The Shining when he's like going down the corridors really slowly.
Yeah.
And you get that when it's the POV shots of just following something and you're like, something's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be a jump scare, but it's going to make you go, well, that made me wish I was dead.
It's the same when they were going, not when they go in the house and find the body, but it's there's a point where they're like walking around the house. I don't know if it's when Betty's just disappeared or something, but there's another one, and it doesn't lead to anything.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I can't, and it's just because I remember at one point, again, I didn't write it down. I just ended up watching the film at some point, but it felt to me like this massive build of tension, and then nothing happens. But then it doesn't build on it again. It doesn't like almost bring it back. You know, like in horror where
it starts
they'll
building
do like
something
the thing.
Again.
Yeah, it'll be like they hear a sound, they turn around, they walk down this long corridor, and nothing's there. They turn around, something's there.
Yeah.
Like a false positive of spookiness.
Classic.
But it never did anything. It never came back. It never built on that tension again. And that was the one time where I was like, I'm actually a bit disappointed with how they played that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly where it was. I think it was one of those bits where they're in the house.
Towards the end, right, where Betty and Rita come back from Silencio, and they put the box on the bed, and then suddenly Betty's disappeared. And
I don't think it was
Rita goes looking for her,
but
then when she walks out of the corridor, out of the door, it stays on the door.
She doesn't walk out.
And then no, she does, and then
she doesn't.
I'm sure she does.
The box. No, it just pans to the door, and then it's like the aunt who owned the flat in the first place.
Yeah.
Because we stay on the door for fucking ages. I don't think anyone
she walks out of it. She does. She walks out of it, and then the aunt walks back in.
And then the room's like clean.
Yeah. And daytime.
There is a shot. I think it's when maybe it's like towards the shower or something. I can't remember. It's one of those ones in the house. It's a point of view shot.
Like early
it pushes
on.
towards something. Yeah. And it feels like there's going to be this big reveal or something, and nothing happens. Again,
I was messaging our group chat at that time. I can't remember what I was saying, but it was right on that scene. I'll get it up because I was so distracted midway through talking about it that I was like, hold on, let me find it. I was like, yeah, well, I know David Lynch, so nothing will surprise me, but, there's a lady in the shower, apparently. Anyway, yeah, I expect weirdness, but I genuinely nearly released my bowels at that hobo.
Yeah. It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, but I was busy talking about how weird something else is, and then it was like, she's in this new apartment. There's someone in her shower.
There's a lady.
Okay.
Well,
and then you find out that it's... Yeah.
Speaking of the hobo, we see him twice. We see him at that kind of, could call it kind of a jump scare.
Yeah.
With the guy talking about his dream and then going outside.
Just like, hi.
And he's being led to this scary moment by the guy he's with.
Yeah.
And he's kind of being
No,
pushed
he
into
leads
it.
him there, doesn't he?
Well,
he's in front.
The guy's behind him. He's kind of showing him, and it's almost like, I think he maybe looks back, and the guy's like, "Go on," non-verbally, and blah, 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 blah. and then he like collapses to the ground.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "You're good, still chill." Like, that's the first time we see him. The second time we see him is when we're back in real life, or kind of when we start to blur the lines between the two.
Almost at the end, isn't it?
We're back. Yeah, this is towards the very end. We're back behind the wall where the hobo lives. And he has the blue box that we saw earlier. Bear in mind, we're back in the real world with the actual key. He has the blue box, puts that in a paper bag, puts that down.
Yeah.
And then the two old people from the beginning, who are now tiny, scamper out,
Come
and they're
out
like,
with it.
"Woohoo!
Yeah. Also, there's a really, really unsettling like bit of gristly meat in the bag that makes me feel really uncomfortable.
It's like a wet piece of raw meat. I was like, I hated it.
I was like, I don't want to keep looking at this.
But at that point, I put Dream Man is back, and then my next note was, tiny people, this film has gone to shit. What on God's green earth is this? They're just these tiny little... You know what? It reminds me, and this is so kind of tangential and bizarre.
Ooh,
So one of my earliest memories from my childhood wasn't like a real life memory. It was a dream. And I think it's after watching... Is it Gulliver's Travels? What? No. What's the
you
film?
were surely too old.
No. What's the film where it's like a guy on this island and there's loads of tiny people?
That is Gulliver's Travels.
That is Gulliver's Travels.
So
but you can't have been that young when that came out.
I think they did a remake. Maybe
Well, it's actually it's a very classic book, so I'm sure there's probably an original film.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd seen it, but it was similar to that. I was in the dream. I'm like 3 years old, maybe 4, and I go to my mum's room in like our old house. She's doing something, and she leaves the room. I'm in like a dressing gown, bare feet, right? In this dream, this is a horrible fucking dream. In this dream, loads of tiny people start scurrying out from under my mum's bed and like throwing ropes over my feet and tying them down, and then they start chopping off my toes. I've never forgotten that dream. They also start to then blend the toes and drink them.
How old were you?
3 or 4. I would not sleep without my feet being tucked in like a burrito for like several years.
3 or 4, you're having drinks about your toes being blended and drank.
Yeah, it was horrifying. So I think maybe that's part of my issue with the tiny people.
With the tiny people.
It sounds like it might be the source of all your issues.
I didn't get that bit.
Do you think it's her parents? Like,
I don't know.
That she
they
doesn't
address
feel
each other
that...
as strangers. Ish?
Yeah, they met on the
dream.
plane.
In the dream, they do.
Yeah,
but this is back
in
reality when the tiny people and they come like chasing her at the end. I
mean, it's certainly possible.
It could be like she feels like they're disappointed in her because she went to Hollywood and didn't make anything of herself, so they're like chasing her down.
Yeah, it's true. That is what my parents do. When I came out of university, and walked straight into a job, they both like followed me down a hallway going. But
it's almost like mocking her. It's like they're mocking her, and then she kills herself.
Yeah.
So could it be like the overwhelming disappointment?
She can't tell if she's awake or asleep at that point.
Yeah,
but
and then
I mean,
Silencio.
Yeah.
And then it fucking goes to black credits. Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh, don't forget about the scene a few minutes before it where she furiously wanks on the couch for like an uncomfortable amount of time.
Yeah, crying. Yeah.
Like her vision keeps going out as well.
Yeah.
That was one thing I had. I had personally think the sexual elements of the film are a bit gratuitous.
But that makes sense, right? Because they're dream sex. Apart from when she's cranking that Soldier Boy on the couch.
Not all of it as well. And even when she's Diane, we don't... Is it dream, is it not? If she's Diane, is it awake? Because we see kind of callbacks to when they're together. And Camille's like, I said, don't do this again. Even though I told you to come here and I'm on top of
Yeah.
the bed.
See, I didn't see that as a callback. I saw that as part of her. She's got insomnia, so she can't differentiate what's dream and what's real anymore.
Yeah. But I
see what you mean. It could work as a callback.
Yeah. But then, I mean, it's something that we kind of did at university. Is kind of the history of the male gaze in cinema.
Ooh.
I know, we're getting there.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It did feel like a movie where it was like, you know, a typical dude like, we're gonna have to see boobs soon.
Yeah,
I'm making a movie. I can't make a movie without boobs.
Yeah, when she was like coming to bed, and then she's like, okay, towel off. Okay.
Where's your jammies? I'm in jammies.
That's what I thought. I was like,
I was literally
I was
like, weird, but okay.
Me and Hannah were like, oh, boobs, okay. And then they happen again, and then there's the masturbation scene. And I mean, that's what I do when I'm going a bit mental and I can't sleep. Granted, you know, but it was a joke.
It wasn't, though, was it?
Usually without the crying. Usually.
But with the blacking out.
Yeah. I couldn't tell. Was that tears like blurring her vision, or like waves of orgasm?
Well, actually, if what Max was saying, it makes sense that it's like coming in and out of consciousness, basically, rather than tears.
And maybe that's her only way to kind of just stay awake, is to feel something.
Yeah.
That's sad.
But there are elements of it, and I'm like, okay, well, 2001, I suppose it's a different time, and we like to see boobs on. I mean, we always like to see boobs on TV, don't we all? But
I mean, we talked about Game of Thrones last week.
Yeah.
Boobs. True.
And we did well not to mention boobs. I mean, I think it came up once.
Yeah, no, it barely came up.
Yeah.
Boobs.
Props
Fair
to
play.
us. Let's pat ourselves on the back.
Maybe because we're not like tasteless cunts, you know.
But I mean, I found myself
than just boobs.
I was thinking like 5 years ago, I'd be like, nice one, titties. But I was kind of watching this, thinking, is this necessary to what we're seeing, or is this just?
But again,
kind
it
of
just makes you feel uncomfortable, right? The point
exactly.
of the film is an overwhelming sense of being uncomfortable. That it's, you know, if you do go and watch the film, be prepared to be not comfortable for 2.5 hours. Like that is just what the film is.
And one of the, kind of, I suppose, getting to the wrap up stages of the podcast, one of the things I read afterwards, because I didn't have a fucking clue, and bear in mind none of them said it was a dream, for the record. I think it's not unreasonable to say it would be a dream, and you know, you get reviewers of kind of highbrow kind of we know film magazines get a bit wanky, let's be fucking real, you know. One of the interesting things that I did read is Mulholland Drive itself is a famous road in Hollywood or in LA, and kind of at the top of it, it's like you've got miles and miles of actual asphalt road. It turns into a dirt track that on its own can be taken as some sort of visual representation of Hollywood. But up at the top of the hill that it's on, you can basically see like Hollywood, like downtown LA, and you see the bright lights and all of that. You see the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean. You see, I can't remember what it was called, the something valley, where basically all the porn is made.
And
another place in another direction, and it's kind of that road is the cross section of all these different things, and we kind of see it. We see the bright lights of Hollywood. We see the kind of gratuitous sexual side of things, like in the porn industry, and we see the kind of vast emptiness that you can feel up there. That is the Pacific Ocean, and there are elements of the wankiness that you kind of go, actually, I can see it. And the film kind of encapsulates what you can see on the road.
Yep. Would you watch it again?
To study, not to enjoy. Because although by the end of this, I maybe retract my phrase that
your least favourite film of all time.
Oh no, I didn't enjoy it. It's still my least favorite film.
Okay, I was going to say, if you change your opinion on it,
actively bad.
Okay, good. That's fine.
It was passively bad at worst.
What would you rate it out of 10? So what would you have rated out of 10 after watching it?
How many boobs are in it? No. I didn't like it. That's the thing.
That's fine. You could.
There were
say
elements.
a
I
low
would say
score.
maybe like a 3 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Genuinely.
And now that we've talked about it, would you still give it a 3?
I would have to break it down. Like I would genuinely into like different categories. Like,
yeah.
Did I enjoy this film? Still no, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that we've talked about it before. It's subjectivity. I like storylines. I like telling a story.
You like The Greatest Showman?
Don't fucking come at me like that. I enjoyed it. But like linear, non-linear, as long as there's a story being told and there's like people to connect with, like I like that. I couldn't connect to anyone because it was purposefully so disconnected.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the art form that it is. It's not kind of mass consumption cinema.
No.
It's
no, I get. I totally
piece.
agree with you.
What would you say,
I don't
Max?
agree.
What would you-
I would say a 7.5 to an 8.
Out of 10.
Yeah. I thought the last hour of that film was some of the best cinema I've ever seen. But the first hour and a half wasn't.
Not so much.
So it was like, okay, I get why it was all weird and like that, and the parts of it that I didn't like were explained when I understood it, or at least my interpretation of understood it. But that last hour was just so good that it would be hard for me to say that I didn't think it was really good and didn't have a good time with it. But yeah, I'm not going to give it any higher than that because I didn't have a good time with it as such.
Yeah, I would max out at 7, I think, for that film.
I thought about it and I was like, I would give it an 8. I think, aside, I thought it was slow as well.
Yeah.
That whole first, it is like an hour and a half that you're like, I did find myself kind of looking at my phone and being like, holy shit, it's only been 20 minutes. Like, what is going on right now? But then as soon as you get past that point, it almost feels like you're rewarded for getting through it. Because it's just like you said, that hour it just goes by. And I did feel like that. I was like, this is just some of the most incredible piece of filmmaking I've seen for a long time. It's how has it taken me this long to watch it? But saying that, 5-6 years ago, I probably would have hated this film.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have appreciated it if I had just gone and watched it thinking it would be like any other film, or not really understanding the thought process behind what I was watching.
Yeah. 100, I think I agree. Yeah, 100%. Well, this was a fun one. I said, was absolutely thrilled when you announced it. I think you smashed it out of the park with your choice, because something that we can definitely all talk about in depth, and also anything that will actively piss off Alex just makes me happy. So, but we are letting Alex pick next week's film.
And he's picking The Greatest Showman.
Shit.
No. I think it'd be interesting if we watched the film we hadn't seen. Again, even what I haven't seen. So I'll have a look around and see what I can find.
Yeah.
But I think
excellent.
I'll fucking enjoy. Yeah. No,
which means it'll suck.
That is why Max is the wank film dude. Hey, you come at me for Greatest Showman, I'll come right back, okay?
Hey,
Hugh Jackman is a saint!
He is, I agree. The songs in it are good too. It's just a shame about the story and everything else. Camera work. Horrible
it could be interesting.
CGI thing.
You joke, it could be interesting to delve into it. But let's not. I will pick a different film.
Good.
Side eye.
I do hate it.
We'll do Les Mis, the film.
I like that film. I know. I know.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, but I like him in it.
Sam Barks repping the Isle of Man, though.
Big up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
someone's got to be from there. You know.
What an ending.
Welcome to the show.
No, Nathan already did that.
I'm not keeping that bit.
Fair enough. Well, now that you've joined us, it's time to go.
Yeah, well, Alex, I'm going to let you do the outro this week because I've done it.
You have to plug
I've done it for 11 weeks in a row now, so I want you to do it.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed listening. Give us a follow on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We are Glassline Media. We're also on Twitter. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a cheeky follow. Anywhere else, give us a follow and a like and a subscribe and a share.
YouTube is the platform he's talking about.
That is YouTube.
The one you're watching this on.
If you're watching it on this one, these buttons, or if you're listening, Max was pointing to buttons. If you're looking for a wild ride of a film, watch Mulholland Drive. If you want to be happy, don't. And I guess
that's the best. That's the best review you could have given it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Silencio. That's all I've got.
Silencio.
Silencio.